everybody comfortable?
There's more chairs, so.
Excellent.
And there's more chairs if people want to pull chairs in the back, too, so.
Great. Well, we'll start. So I'm Steve Ham. I'm the moderator, and also I helped Bob write the book.
Yay, woo!
And I got to tell you, it was a delightful experience. We've been working on this for a year and a half. It started off being kind of like, well, I don't want to steal your thunder when you explain the story, but it started off being just a conversation, and, it turned into a book. I'll leave it at that. But working with Bob has been great, and it's always great to be involved with somebody who's been so central to what's happened in computing all these years. And I used to be kind of a freak as a reporter because I actually liked enterprise computing. But now it's all coming to me now, you see?
It's in.
It's back in, or I guess it's in for the first time. But anyway, I do want to compliment George on his pants. And this is the first time in my life I ever wanted to have one of those pants where you just kind of unzip the thing and drop the bottoms of them.
You're just jealous.
I don't. I am just jealous. But it's great to be in the Computer History Museum. This is truly one of the great assets of Silicon Valley and beyond. And a fantastic team. Daniel.
Daniel.
Good work. There we go. Thank you.
Yay, woo, Daniel.
Yeah. Now, I have a tiny tidbit of a connection to the museum. Years ago, part of one of the exhibits about mobile computing featured a little thing that I did. It was in my book, The Race for Perfect, which was about innovation in mobile computing. And I found in my reporting that IBM, when it had one of the very first tablets, had ran a test with one of the insurance companies in the Midwest, maybe it was Allstate or something like that. And they decided, it would be perfect for field claim adjusters to have it out in the field because they can jot the notes, fill out the forms, all that kind of stuff. But then they found almost immediately that the people didn't really know what to do with it, except if they were out after a storm, they might put it on the ground and kneel on it to keep their pants from getting muddy. So this is an example. This is a beautiful example of the fact that very often some of the first products or technologies in a category fail, but we keep trying and trying again. And that's one of the great things about Microsoft has always been that spirit of trying again until you get it right. But so it is my wish that AI it'll work the same way. We've had many decades of it, and now it seems to be getting pretty damn good. But I think actually the technology may not be the worst problem. It may be the human error that we have to watch out for most. So that's one of the themes we'll talk about tonight. Anyway, we'll get into the introductions. And Bob, of course, you know, but you probably didn't know until fairly recently that he had this itch to write a book, to become a book author. It's been driving him for months now.
I think you may have given me that itch, Steve.
It's been driving him for months. And so he's going to be talking about the book right after we do the introductions. Now, Shilong Huang, XD for short, fellow alumni of Carnegie Mellon University. He's a little more advanced than me. So he's previously technical fellow at Microsoft, 30 years at Microsoft, correct?
Yes.
And recently he's at another company. Is it still a secret? Can we say the name?
You can say it.
Zoom.
He's at Zoom now.
We bring people together.
Yeah,
like this.
right. Yeah, and he and Bob work together a lot on speech recognition and other natural language technologies at Microsoft for many years.
When it didn't work.
Yeah.
All the time I worked with XD, it never worked.
After Bob left, he
always
perfected it.
Tolerated that we didn't actually make it work.
Yeah.
Until he left.
That was the key. That was the key.
The magic moment. And we got Benoit Daguerre Snowflake, co-founder and president of products, and all geared up for Summit next week.
Yeah.
Getting ready.
No pun.
And and he and Bob worked closely together. We were close partners for 5 years. Bob was there. Bob was really the first CEO. There was somebody before him, but Bob is the first guy really building the organization.
Mike was there, but
Yeah. And then George of no pants, of short pants. Co-founder, Fivetran data pipeline technology company, and Bob is on the board there. So we're going to have a quick conversation or discussion. I'm going to ask a bunch of questions, but hopefully it'll evolve into a conversation very quickly and be a lot of fun. We'll do that for about 30 minutes. Then we'll have a Q&A. Anybody can ask questions. Doesn't mean I'll let you, we'll answer them, but no, we will. It'll be fine. So, Bob, your introduction.
great. Thanks, Steve. So it was when I was at Snowflake, actually, that I first met Steve, and he was working on a book that was a different book for Snowflake. And after I had left Snowflake for a few years, I felt like I had something to say, and I thought that if I wrote something down in some form, I could help people learn something. And so I worked with Steve, and pretty quickly, I would say, after we talked for a couple of months, we had a number of Zoom sessions where I was telling him stories and things. He said, Bob, I'm really sure that there's a book in here, and we can tell a story. And we started putting the chapter list together. And then in thinking about how to tell the story, I said, for me, what's always mattered is the people that I've worked with, the values of the organizations that I've been a part of. And so let's tell the story from the perspective of the people, the data entrepreneurs that I've had a chance to work with. Even when I was at Microsoft, it turned out this huge company, it was actually a fairly entrepreneurial experience because I was doing new things, starting new businesses for Microsoft and working with folks like XD and others there that were really innovating and driving technology forward. And I realized it was about these data entrepreneurs, and Steve immediately said, you mean the Datapreneurs, and the name, and thus the name came out. And it worked very well because Steve was able to talk to the people and tell some of the backstory, and then I would put the technology into the chapters, and Steve would tell me he doesn't understand what I wrote. That was typically the next conversation. Yeah, I didn't understand any of that, Bob. And then we would sit down and spend an hour together, and I would explain it, and we would rewrite it, and I think that made the book much more approachable, which was great because in the end, at the end of last year, when it was apparent that AI was going to have a huge impact on the world and had come along much, much faster than I had anticipated, the book now has the potential to reach a broader audience. And the feedback I've gotten from a number of people who have read it that are not technologists is that it was approachable, and I hope people learn something. But the book is really about the people, all the people that have made this happen. And then the other thread that is really critical throughout the book are the values and how important I have come to realize company values are in creating the technology. Because the technology we create, the services, actually have the values of the company embedded within it. And that will be particularly important in a world with artificial intelligence where these bots are going to take actions on our behalf. And so the way they do that is, in my opinion, is equally important as what they do. And that will be based on the values, and those values will be put in by people. So it's about the people and their values, including these three gentlemen here, which are three of the greats that I've had the incredible opportunity to work with over the years. We have a few other datapreneurs that are in the book. This room is actually filled with datapreneurs. If I look around the room, I see datapreneurs all over the place. Not everyone. My wife is not. She's an honorary datapreneur. She's an honorary datapreneur. So let me start by introducing my companion in life, my lovely wife Laura Allen, who's made things some. And I also want to thank my daughter Flora and Zinnia, that Lauren, her CEO, is here. And they put this whole event together. And so Zinnia is actually one of these new entrepreneurial companies, which is fantastic. It's fantastic to see that. And then beyond the datapreneurs that were in the book that are here with me, several other folks that were part of the book are here tonight. Molam Araf from Relational AI is here. Molam's there. Joan Arminaud is here from Collagia. Matt's with her. Matt's also here. Matt's also there. And Eric Berg and Matt Friels are here from Fauna, so they're right there. So welcome to our in-audience datapreneurs. And we have this esteemed panel, so why don't we get started?
Okay, very good. No, it's just amazing to think back. Last October, We had no idea, all right? I had no idea what was about to hit us, except you were talking about models.
Foundation models.
Foundation models. And then along came this whirlwind that has just thrown everything up in the air. And this is, we've seen this again and again in technology in the history, just like one thing after another has come along. Just a quick aside, I came to Silicon Valley to work at the San Jose Mercury News as the tech editor in 1989. And when I arrived, they said, "Too bad you missed it." Right? Jeez, my timing's terrible. But anyway, so fortunately, we've had wave after wave of fantastic, exciting innovations. With ChatGPT, with the large language models, GPT-4, tremendous new technologies coming to bear, tremendous opportunities. And so the first question I wanted to ask is, of everyone, what do you see as the big opportunities? What do you see as the transformative things that could transform business and even society?
So, you want to start with George?
No, you start.
Not in no particular order, but
2-letter words. AI.
Yes.
I really think that if you look at the history of the last 2,000 years, printing press was invented, Renaissance happened. When the steam engine was invented, the word productivity just got a huge lift. Now you see electricity, mobile internet, and mobile phone. AI will do something even faster. The evidence is really, it took like 17 years for mobile phone to reach 100 million users. It took 3 months for ChatGPT to reach 100 million users. If that's not enough, what else is actually, more evident?
Yeah. Okay. No, I think indeed is going to profoundly transform, our society and at many levels. So AI, I think the first aspect is that it will increase our productivity and enhance, automate a lot of things. So that's going to, we talk about co-pilot, and everyone is going to have a personal AI assistant, right? It's in the movies. You saw that, right, a long time ago. But it's going to happen. I mean, that's for sure. So productivity, automation of a lot of simple tasks and more complex tasks. That's scary a little bit because, human at some point, what are we going to do? When it's only increasing productivity, it's great, but it might come at a cost. So that's the first revolution. The second one is going to be how, for organization companies, how they are going, customers are going to interact with these companies and the support and today you call anyone and you have this automatic answering and you have to press 1, 2, 3. I mean, I expect tomorrow you just say, you just speak your problem, describe it, and the system will know how to resolve it. I mean, just that is going to be transformative, and we are going to see a lot of impact on chatbots and all this technology. And for me, the biggest impact is making correlation with data, right? This AI, I mean, AI is nothing without data, so the two are very connected, and making sense of a very large volume of data and finding correlation that human beings, would not have the time to see. Would open a lot of interesting discovery. So.
You mentioned PDAs, and XD and I were talking before. I mean, back in the early 90s, that was the thing, and it's taken a long time to get there. But it seems like, hey, we're on the cusp of this thing. How do you see kind of the AI PDA of the future working, for the, say, since you guys are business guys, for the business person rather than for the consumer? Do you have kind of a vision of that?
I'm not a business guy, so I'll let
This is probably an XD question, but we'll get to you in a second, George.
George, your turn now.
Or you?
Oh, is it my
Do you have an
turn?
opinion about that?
You want me to answer the original question or the personal digital assistant?
Answer the original question.
Well, first I was going to say that obviously what it's going to do is that these language models are going to finally replace SQL with natural language, right? Just kidding. I like to joke, actually.
no panic.
I like to joke that when we're taking starships to other planets, they'll have SQL databases. And I really actually believe that. I think it
He does believe that. We've argued about it before.
There will never be a time that it makes sense to switch, and we'll be like on the Starship Enterprise, and somewhere it'll be running like Select Star, where he's with me.
I agree. I fully agree with that.
But that's a tangent. I think I'll answer the. Give a slightly different twist on the same answer about what are the implications of these AIs for like society and the world at large. Before I was a datapreneur, I was actually a scientist, and I was a neuroscientist. And I think one of the non-obvious implications of the developments in AI that are going to happen over the next years is they're actually going to help us understand ourselves. So our own brains are extraordinarily resistant to scientific inquiry. They are filled with irreducible complexity. They're like a machine built by an insane person. And so they're really, it's very hard to understand the basis of human intelligence. And I think the way we're finally going to get there is actually going to be through a bank shot, is that we'll build artificial intelligence, we'll understand that, and then we'll work backwards and realize in retrospect how our own intelligence actually works. So I think that will be in the next, and within our lifetimes, that will be a non-obvious outcome of artificial intelligence.
Yeah. That's a really interesting observation. The brain wasn't designed; it just evolved.
Yeah.
So all of those interactions over all those 60 million years or whatever.
And to answer the second question about personal digital assistants, I want this. If anyone's looking for a pivot for their company in the audience right now, here it is. What I want is just the Eye of Sauron inside my company that reads everything that is written by anyone. You don't need to do any permission system for the first user, which is me, because I have access to everything. And then I can realize my dream of truly micromanaging everything.
Can't Slack
I don't think
do
that's.
that?
You have asked for that, but I'm not sure it's for micromanaging. I'm not sure if that's. It's just to find out what you've complained in the past about knowing what's going on, which I totally get. Being CEO, what I would say to this is that, for gosh sakes, for the first time, computers understand English. You can speak in a natural language, and a computer can parse that and respond to it in a rational, intelligent way. For the first time, we have intelligence that we can put into a machine. For a long time, we've been working with data, and data can turn into knowledge if you analyze it and make a conclusion. And in the past, it's taken a person to do that analysis. Now it will be possible for these artificial intelligences to do that. And we will be able to communicate with these AIs because they will speak our language for the first time. You don't have to be a programmer. To me, that breakthrough is so incredible. We've been talking about these autonomous cars for a long time, and I've always thought that would happen in a few years. I've always thought it was a 2030s thing when Uber will go autonomous, et cetera. But I always thought, how are you going to tell the Uber where to drop you off in the end? Because the end of every Uber drive is you talk to the driver, right? So we're going to talk to, well, yes, you'll be able to talk to the robot that's driving you in the future. And that didn't seem possible until recently, and now it seems obvious that that's going to happen.
That's great. I don't get out to San Francisco very often, but 2 weeks ago I was out here. I saw so many autonomous cars. It did creep me out a little bit. But if you talk to the autonomous driver, will it distract them?
I don't think so, actually. I don't think so. You just have to tell it to turn the music down. That's all at the beginning of.
Yeah, that's right. So we've talked about AI impact at kind of a high level, but I want to go back and, at your companies, your technology layers, how are you using it? How are you developing it? How are you accommodating it? Whatever. It seems like it's going to be everywhere. So, George.
Well, at Fivetran, we're in the business of connecting data and replicating data into one place so that you can tell what's going on in your business, even if you don't have a language model that will read it all and summarize it for you. The first step in doing anything with data is getting it all in one place. That's what we do. And so we have to maintain this huge set of connectors to all these different data sources. And part of the value we provide is in the platform that underpins it all, but part of the value is just in the connectors and in mapping out all this intricate detail of all these different data sources. And it's a monster to maintain all this. Our VP of product and I were talking today about the connector monster and how it sucks up most of our engineering effort every quarter. The main thing that we're doing with AI is actually using it as an internal tool to, basically it's a productivity game, trying to, we're not trying to, we've experimented for a couple of years now, actually. Before they got hot, there was a group within Fivetran playing around with GPT, trying to use it for this. But the thing that we found success with is in building like a human AI like co-authoring environment where we can, it's not 100% automated, but we're just, at the end of the day, we don't actually need 100% automation. We just want to improve productivity so that we can maintain eventually thousands of connectors at a reasonable cost and without our engineers all quitting. So that's
Who needs them?
That's been the application at Fivetran, and I think there's something important there. I think in most places, you're not actually trying to achieve this total hands-off automation. Most of the gains are actually going to be in these like co-piloting situations.
I agree. So in the context of Snowflake, so Snowflake is the system where
Put the data over there.
Yes. So now, for Snowflake, we use AI internally, but that's not too important. So our main mission is to bring AI into Snowflake, such that, and that's a very big challenge, as we discussed with XD before that panel. Data is what powers AI. Without data, you don't have AI. So having all the data in one place that you can analyze and run your training and do your inference on that data, but doing it co-located with the data. You don't want to move the data out of the platform. So Snowflake, the real challenge and what we have been working for many months, if not a year, is really bringing AI inside the platform. And it's for that, you need to have rich data, formats, so unstructured data, images, videos, text. Text recognition is very important to automate all this and create pipeline where AI is part of that pipeline. And the second aspect for us is we believe AI will be democratized by all these applications, right? So you are going to build a lot of applications which are going to be powered by AI. And at the end is creating this this platform for developing this application with all these different capabilities, and AI being one of them, which is critical.
You guys have been talking about data applications for several years now, but this is kind of like data applications on steroids.
For us, I mean, for me at least, why AI is is going to be so impactful is because it's really going to democratize access to data, and this is what Bob was saying. For the first time, a human is not going to have to talk the language of a machine and adapt, to that machine. It will be the reverse. It will be able to speak in natural language, and the AI is going to translate that into SQL at the end, maybe. So SQL is not going to go away, right? Because the AI doesn't know how to run a query against the data, right?
Yeah.
There will be still, this data stack that the AI will be built on top of. And the AI will be a bridge between a human being or an application and the data. And it's going to be amazing, and it's going to open a lot of possibilities.
I actually think that the AI will target the dimensional models. I think the relational model is still even too low level. It's just a conjecture, but I think that's how we're going to get correctness. I think dimensional models are actually going to survive into the AI era, and they're going to be the compilation target. But we'll see.
There is rational AI.
I was looking at Mo. I was looking at Mo while I was saying that. I wasn't sure.
This is a great discussion. I'm here in Silicon Valley as a new hire, doing the new hire orientation. So if you ask me what the Zoom is going to work on, I'm telling you, hey, I'm new. I cannot say anything. But before Zoom, I spent 30 years in Microsoft. Bob used to be really a great inspirational leader. So I'm willing to follow him no matter where he goes. So he wanted me to really say, hey, participate in this panel. I flew here and got rid of my new orientation in Zoom, and I really just.
Did you join Zoom? You decided to join Zoom after you had the Datapreneurs?
because I need to come here for the panel. Therefore, I switched to Zoom.
You shifted, yes.
More convenient, yeah.
So I want to say a few things about what we have been doing in Microsoft. My view, because I'm no longer. I used to be AI CTO, and Microsoft helped speech vision Azure OpenAI services. We got that into market, and really just is a phenomenal milestone. But the key message I really want to highlight, AI is nothing without data and the GPU. So there are really two supporting pillars in today's AI revolution. The data is the oxygen, is the fuel. And the GPU is the computing that process the fuel and the oxygen. And OpenAI is fantastic, really awesome, because the quality of the data to train the model is awesome. The recipe is the same. That's what Google used for translation. There's really not that different between what Google got, what Microsoft got, what the Meta got. But the OpenAI is able to offer GPT-4 with amazing quality. We have to thank the data they have. So when Bob is writing this book, this is just timely, really illustrated the foundation of the revolution behind the AI. So I just want to highlight that this is as important as GPU. You know what the media is actually changing the world, right? Data is actually as important.
I agree.
No arguments.
I'm a little bit biased.
We're not going to have any fights on the panel tonight, I don't think. Yeah. Bob, I know you don't have an organization other than just Laura, but which is not just. But how do you see this kind of being integrated into companies?
Well, I think it depends. I mean, in the case of, for example, platforms like Snowflake, it's really about how AI is offered to developers and to companies for them to build their applications. And when I work with a Snowflake or Microsoft or one of these companies that are building platforms, they really are building the infrastructure. And largely that's what I've done for most of my career. What's interesting now, I think, is really also the applications that are going to be possible with AI. And I think it will be about the applications that will emerge. We'll see these co-pilots over the next couple of years. What I see now, and Arvind from Perplexity is here today, and there's this preponderance of new, what I would call answer bots, where you can ask a question and it'll give you an answer. Perplexity is quite a good one of those, but Bing is one and Bard is another. You have a few of them coming out. And those are going to turn into action bots very soon, where they will do something for you. You can ask them to book your favorite Italian restaurant at 7:30 on Friday night. It'll tell you that it's not available, but is 8 okay? And it'll make the reservation. And when that happens, it'll open up new business models. I mean, this is really cracking open industries and changing things. For the first time in history, the search business, while Google is still the king for sure, and I wouldn't, I would never bet against Google, it is the first time in history where it is possible to imagine different alternatives. And it may not be one. I mean, there's one Google that has 90% share. I think the likelihood is that while Google, I think, will still be the leader, I think there'll be a number of different companies that come in and take pieces of share. And these are the kinds of opportunities that open up. They're financial opportunities, but they're also opportunities to change the way people work and live. And that's what I find so exciting. And of course, working with the people is the best part.
Just remember, after Google launched, Yahoo continued to grow for like 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, but they did.
You're dead for a long time before you know.
Well, that's why I say you wouldn't. I would not bet. I would never bet against. I would not bet against Google, but it was impenetrable until last year, and it may still be impenetrable, but I don't know that it is. I think it might be. I mean, I think again, I would still project they'll stay the leader, but I do think things will change.
Well, they're not complacent, so.
But they were caught flat-footed.
Yeah. Hey, we talked about AI.
Can I just add something in addition to what Bob said? I think the last mile with GPT-4, Anthropic, Meta, Llama is still important. You need to have enterprise data to really close that loop. So there's tremendous opportunity for all the companies. Not just say this GPT-4 will solve all the problem. That last mile is super, super critical. This is why data, the book, is so relevant. It's in the front and the center.
Yeah. Enterprise data is one of the key things that's not being done very much today is having these tools work with enterprise data, and that's going to change in a matter of months. I mean, it's technically not that hard to do that, and the tools and techniques are being built, are there, and the products are being built right now by literally hundreds of companies.
That's a very nice segue into the next question. So we've been talking about AI straight on, but another big topic in this room is kind of getting short shrift, and that is managing data. And we have the modern data stack. We have some pillars of the modern data stack, or some piles of it, or something. And
Pipes.
Pipes. We got some pipes.
Yeah, this is the pipe.
Coming in.
We'll demonstrate. I'll put Benoit on top of my shoulders. A live demonstration of how it works.
There we go.
And we need someone
like
from,
this.
do we have anyone from Looker here?
So, you guys are the masters of, security, access control, governance, all those kinds of things. These new models kind of bring in a whole another dimension to be controlled, to be secured, to be governed. How do you see that working? Are the same governance models and security models going to work, or does it require new paradigms in the technology?
I think that's a question for XD, because I really don't know how you do role-based access control in a language model. That's something I'm actually really wondering.
It was
Yeah, we asked this question because I wanted the answer to it.
it was funny. Benoit and I were talking about the same thing before the meeting. I really think that enterprise data, when they're trying to use large language model, right, you have to find a secured way to process data. You don't want to actually send data to anywhere. So that's the struggle for Snowflake.
Yeah.
And we don't have a solution yet. The data, they are so sensitive, and they just a lot of concerns.
I think that there are several layers in your question. The first one is what you are talking, I think, about. Should I move the data to where these LLM models are running and therefore lose the governance of that model, or versus running this model, where the data is? So this is what we are focusing in terms of security, is that you can run all your AI, inside the data platform. It should be a part of the core capability of that platform. It should not be externalized, because otherwise you'll have to push the data to that. And our customers, they don't want to do that. Okay, that's very clear. That's one level of governance. I think your question was about training, and on what data do I train? Because now it needs to understand, if I train on that data, which I don't have access, and then I use the model which has been trained on that data, it might expose that data to me. So that's a very big challenge, and this is where you have fine-tuning of models, where the model is generic and trained on very large volume of public data, and then you fine-tune it on your data. So I think models are going to be nested and are going to collaborate, and you are going to use a large language model first, and then you are going to apply it on this fine-tuning data. So I think that's the way it will happen. The other aspect is what we talked about, how to access data, right? So these models are going to translate your natural language question into a geeky, SQL or data frame, query. But this query, will access data, will go through the regular, data stack. So it will only return what you have access to. So you will interact with this language model, but they are going to interact with the system, using the regular access path that are protected.
Yeah. Hey, question for you. So you have both the large language model and your own proprietary data within the cloud, within your cloud. Is there some kind of brain-body barrier built in there that kind of segments?
I didn't say what we have, because we are going to have a lot of announcements, next week.
All right.
But I'm saying in terms of vision, for us it's very important that we can run, on this model, LLM models, directly inside, the Snowflake Data Cloud, and that you move all the compute inside the platform, because you don't want to move the data out.
I think this is a very interesting and foundational question, and something I've I'm not confident that I know the answer to. I'm watching like everyone else. I've changed my mind about this over the last year or so. There was a really good talk, and I'm eagerly awaiting what's announced at Summit next week. I'm sure we'll all learn something about what's happening in the near term next week. There's a great talk by an entrepreneur, or really just a database geek named Hans Mielsen on YouTube. And he talks about this question of like, is this how it's going to happen? And at one time I thought, oh yeah, this makes sense. Like, it's just going to become like another set of SQL macros. That's how the enterprise is going to be able to access AI. And he makes this point. He puts it as ML is not going to move into the database, even if we wish it very hard. That's how he puts it. And the argument that he makes is that the machine learning and AI ecosystem is just so big, it's just inconceivable to imagine. It's much larger than like the database management ecosystem. So you can't put the big thing inside the comparatively smaller thing. In fact, it's going to have to. He argues, and he created an embedded database engine with this as one of the motivations. He argues that it is in fact going to have to be the opposite, that basically the database management system is going to have to move into the AI ecosystem. I don't know what the answer is, but I think it's fascinating.
I have an answer to that one. So, I mean,
that's why I asked.
Snowflake. No. At Snowflake, I don't see us building a database, so I don't think, when I
What do you mean, you
AI,
built a database?
We build a database.
What is this what Snowflake is?
So you're right, but we are building a data cloud. That's the way I see it. So we are building a cloud, which is very specialized about data and the security of data and governance, and with all the capabilities that you need to process data. So yes, at the center of Snowflake, and this is where we started, there is indeed, a data flow, execution engine and data and transactions and storage of data. But we are, that's one service, if you want, of Snowflake, and we are going to build, a very complete set of service for running these applications at the end, which are going to be powered by AI. So that's the vision. It's a very specialized cloud.
It's a platform.
It's a platform like a cloud is a platform.
Yeah.
So it's really a cloud, and we say data cloud because it's all about data processing.
Yeah, this data cloud requires new thinking, because today, if you think about AI, most of those AI models were trained with public data. There's a huge amount of data behind the firewall, right? How we can really enable hundreds and hundreds of companies make use of that data in a secured way without leaking any privacy information, sensitive information.
Yeah.
That is the missing one. That is the biggest opportunity.
One of the components of, this is where intelligence and knowledge, I keep saying, are complementary to each other. And you can secure the knowledge much more easily. And one of the technologies that's emerged to store knowledge is something called a vector database, where basically you take you take a picture or text, an article, and you run it through a machine learning model, and it produces what a machine would understand, which is called vectors. It's a multidimensional vector space. And what that tells you is what the semantic content of that information is. And then the vector database will look that up. It does it's called a similarity search that does a semantic search. And that can be secured. That technology is still early, but securing that will be interesting.
That's great. Hey, Bob and I both noticed that we're kind of running over time. We're going to have one more question for the panel, and then we'll have Q&A from the group here. Now, so here's where we get real serious about the future. So 400 scientists and business leaders have signed a letter, basically a public letter, warning about the risks of AI and large language models. Including in their list of risks is extinction of our species. So the question is, and the debate is, well, are you as worried as they are about different aspects of this, including species extinction? And what do you think should be done about these issues, these concerns? And let's go to Bob first.
What I would say is there's two things. There's the short-term issues that are very real in the next 5 to 10 years, which is how people use AI as a tool. And like any tool, AI is a very powerful tool. People will do everything with it, the good, the bad, and the evil. And deep fakes are a really good example of the evil, where people are using AI to essentially impersonate someone. And so that's a concern, probably requires a little bit of regulation, a few changes to laws, but largely can use existing laws. In the long run, it's about these things getting super intelligent, and will they get super intelligent, and will they go beyond us, and will they leave us behind and have different objectives? And while I do believe they will get super intelligent, I am very optimistic that we will be able to impart values into these entities to ensure that if they come into existence, that they are aligned with us, and we don't have a Terminator situation.
Well, I agree with Bob. This is a very broad challenge for the society. The ethics, the responsible AI safety, it's so broad. You can pick on almost anything, including deepfake. What I'm most worried is, if you check with AI about answers in the future, who controls the brainwash for the public, right? If that AI is misleading the public, will the public be educated to vote for the wrong person in the future? Think about that consequence, the chain reaction, right? And given that,
you just need Instagram or Twitter today, though. It's not like.
So I'm just saying you can take any slice on how AI is being used. If you think about the downside, it's just very scary.
I mean, I'm a very optimistic person, so I'm not. I say no panic, and the only thing too is I think we have bigger risk with climate, changes, and so that's where we really might be getting instinct.
Yeah.
So maybe we should focus on that.
My perspective on this is that I think people who are worried about the risk of extinction and things like that from AIs are anthropomorphizing these systems, as people always do with technology. My PhD advisor used to like to point out that people analogize the brain to hydropower, and then to electricity, and then to radio waves. Like every new generation of technology, we anthropomorphize it. We're always wrong. AIs are not people. They are not going to have our motivations. They are going to do what we tell them to. And I think the short-term concerns that are, most of the short-term concerns that are bandied about under the header of AI safety are just people who want AIs to manifest their political views, along with everything else.
Yeah. Well, let's have some questions with the audience. There are microphones. Just raise your hand. Right here.
A couple in front.
Right up front. To Ross. Ooh. We'll start with that.
So I think a lot of folks are wondering where the value is going to accrue. Will the LLMs be dominated by a few folks, and what about the application efforts that are there? But here in Silicon Valley, we think back to the gold rush and the Levi Strausses and the people that made kind of the tools that were needed. And I'm wondering if the NVIDIAs or the vector databases or the user interface, what role do those play in kind of making this future happen that we can look forward to?
Well, certainly NVIDIA's done very well.
Oh my God, yeah.
And NVIDIA, next question.
They've definitely benefited perhaps more than anyone has. I think one of the things that was a question a few months ago was, are these products only going to come from the Microsofts and the Googles of the world, or will we see lots of companies doing it? Probably the thing that's been most encouraging to me in the last few months has been the explosion of open source effort that's going on. And I think it's now clear that you can do very powerful things with open source models, and in many cases they are as good, maybe even better, and almost always less costly to run than the really large models. And what that I think will mean is that many organizations will have products, which I think is a really good thing. I think it would be a very unfortunate thing if there were only 5 companies that benefited from this. And in fact, I think there'll be thousands. And we're seeing that. I mean, San Francisco is alive with new AI companies that are talking, people are talking to each other, and that's a fantastic thing.
Yeah, I agree with Bob. This massive large language model horizontally essentially is a search engine. You have the index the whole web. You compress that in a different way, and you can ask any question. Whatever you get is like a search engine, but compressed. Instead of having 10 blue links, you have the answer. But most of the companies, they have their own workload. That one with their own workload, the precision is, there's a huge gap. So you can actually use open source Llama. Meta Llama is just fantastic. And if you have data, you have a data platform, you can create a model, I can tell you, much better than GPT-4 or 5, because you have the specific data for the domain, and it's cost effective. So I don't think any AI researchers will be out of jobs in the short term.
No.
Do you guys have answers?
No, I fully agree with all of that. And the data platform, of course, is going to play a big role.
Go ahead.
Go for it.
All right, my question is on accuracy. So we hold machines to a higher standard of accuracy, right? When a self-driving car has an accident, then it's big news. When on an average, 80% of the drivers think they're better than the average driver, right? So what kind of standards should we hold these AI bots, et cetera?
I mean, my perspective is that it will be very hard. You talked about action AI. I mean, AI that take action. It will take a long time before that's possible. That there is no human in the loop, and you really trust this AI. But we are going to get there, and at some point we are going to accept, some level of risk. Right? It's never going to be perfect. But we will understand that it's much better than the human being. And you're right, it needs to be dramatically better for us to accept that type of technology and that type of risk. But I think that's the thing that really is going to prevent AI to be everywhere and is that risk. And is never going to be zero, I think. I'm not an expert, but.
So I can add the benchmark on the AI quality is multidimensional. There's no single metrics. Stanford's Percy Liang is running the benchmark for a lot of language models. Berkeley also got the scorecard. My key point is really, you take the best large language model today, you take the bar exam, they outperform most of the students. But if you benchmark on the enterprise workload, not usable. They're not only expensive, not usable. If you have enterprise-specific data, you can create a cost-effective model far more superior using the same recipe. So, but how can we enable enterprises to use the data in an efficient way? It remains to be an exciting new opportunity. So this large language model opened the door. Everyone got educated. Oh, this large language model is awesome. Then they got a team to try to use the best available. They said, well, this sucks. Not only expensive, but to my enterprise-specific data is not good enough. That's the pattern I have seen.
I think that part of the answer to your question is it depends on the application. Excuse me. If it's a doctor's notes you're looking at, that's pretty important. If you're driving a car, that's pretty important. If you're booking a restaurant reservation, sometimes your admin gets that wrong too. and so it depends, right, on what the particular domain is.
Sure, there are more questions in the back? Yes.
So, one of the biggest problem with language model is hallucination. And then all these models are basically machine learning, deep learning. There's really no guarantee to be 100% correct. So while it's very good to perform generative tasks, which are creative writing, completing stuff, how can people trust that to produce any answer? What is the right way to verify that? So it sounds like what we talk a lot about is still into the deep learning space. However, AI is both symbolic AI and deep learning AI, machine learning. So has there any way to combine in order to generate a truly practical system people can rely on? And I'd like to hear your opinion on that.
There are a lot of guardrails added. And take Bing Chat as example, right? They use retrieval augmentation. So essentially, you have GPT-4 output and the search output being combined to reduce the hallucination. I think the rate of reduction is phenomenal. Despite of that, there's still a huge amount of hallucination. So I agree with you. We're just limited by the capability of today's large language model. You know what it is? Essentially, it's a translation. You have a question, we use transform and translate to the answer, whatever answer it is. It's like we're translating from English to French. Instead of doing that, we're translating your question to answers. There's no guarantee, this is going to be accurate. Therefore, we're adding a lot of guardrails, hack around, make that better, but it's not going to fix the problem. There's no really true human-like understanding. Even human will hallucinate from time to time, right? So
I hallucinate all the time.
The analogy that's interesting, though, is as people, we work a lot better if we have reference material that we can look at. And so knowledge is one way to reduce that. If you can provide knowledge that is accurate to these models, that is one of the best ways to reduce inaccuracy and hallucinations. And I think we'll see a lot more of that. That's where I keep coming back to vector databases, storing knowledge. Intelligence and knowledge, those two go very well together, and we're seeing advancements in both domains.
I'll just give an example. So I'm a writer. I recently got an assignment to write an article for Yale Medicine Magazine, a complex article. I tried out all the questions I was going to ask the faculty members on ChatGPT. And what I got back was a very kind of reasonable, but extremely boring and undetailed and uninteresting. Just like, and it also has built into it, I'm really not an expert at this, so there's a lot of complexity here I'm not going to be able to get into. It's like almost every page had a disclaimer like that, which I thought I had never heard anybody describe that before, but there it was. It was absolutely useless for me. So I'm glad to say that. I'm happy to say that.
I think this, I've used ChatGPT, I find it very useful. But I will not trust it without me looking at it and fixing it. But so it's going to be for a long time a dialogue where a human will be in the loop before we can trust the system to take actions without any supervision. I think it's going to take a long time. And the doctor example that you were mentioning, Bob, I think these systems are going to do diagnostic and are going to look at medical images and going to help the doctor, but at the
not
end,
replace them.
It's not going to decide do the surgery and it will help someone, and oftentimes that doctor might have missed something that the AI will see. So it's going to really dramatically improve healthcare. I really believe healthcare is going to be a domain which is going to be so impacted by AI, but still under the supervision of human beings.
I often use it to ask questions about arcane technical systems. Actually, 2 weeks ago, I asked it to explain to me how Oracle RAC works. And it gave me a very long, detailed explanation. And then I asked a domain expert to fact check it for me, and he said it all checked out. But maybe I'll get you to check it too while I'm here.
Very, very true. That's why I said it's not as bad as what you say, Steve.
Yeah.
No.
I find it very useful.
This is why Microsoft always named the GPT-based solution as Copilot.
Yeah.
Programming, writing
Great name.
system.
Such a great name.
It's just read it by down. You have to still pay attention. You cannot just let the AI doing everything.
Yeah, gotcha.
One more question.
Hi, just switching gears for a moment to public policy, because that's where I think it's most interesting. Unlike social media, I think we're in a it's very clear that public, policymakers, decision makers are very interested in this area. Obviously, the EU is already discussing, and has been for the last 5 years, discussing the EU AI Act, Canada with ADA, Brazil, and obviously also in the US, the White House has been making a lot of inquiries. So it's not as though there will be no regulation. My question for you is, considering that the policymakers are kind of gung-ho about putting rules of the road in place, if you were holding the pen, what would you tell them to do in order to benefit from from competition, from areas, highly regulated areas like healthcare that are ripe for innovation, but also taking into account the many risks that policymakers are obviously concerned about, misinfo, disinfo, but also things like bioterrorism, et cetera?
Well, I would say focus on the issues that are real in the short term. And for example, do we need more regulation around deep fakes? That's a known area where there's the technology is new, people are doing things with it that really need some laws. Look at things that matter. In the long run, I think that, I always come back to the writings of Isaac Asimov, which was a big part of the book, and his 3 laws of robotics. He really had 4 laws, actually, because late in his life he created the 0th law, which says that a robot or an AI will not harm humanity. And in the long run, those are the sorts of things we need to look at. But those are long-term things. I always come back to values, and it's people's values, and in the short run, it's how people will use this technology.
Any other comments?
No, it's a great answer, Bob.
I would tell the regulators to put down the pen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the regulators, I don't know if you saw this every time there is, these panels of, they don't understand that much. So it's a little bit scary.
Well, you know that it's actually the industries who write the bills for the legislators. So maybe you should volunteer.
Well, maybe we can just get the AI to write the legislation for
Exactly.
it. We'll just do that. So.
Yeah. Do you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, well, first of all, this has been great. Thank you, guys. Thanks to the panel. Thanks very much to the panel. A very esteemed group of datapreneurs. And as I said, we have an audience filled with datapreneurs here. I just want to thank everybody for coming. I started by talking about how important people are and values, and that was a theme through the book, and I think it's been a bit of a theme tonight as well in our panel discussion. It's a really interesting time, obviously. We'll see a lot of changes ahead. And of course, here we are in the middle of it here in Silicon Valley at the Computer History Museum. What a fantastic venue, by the way, to have this event. So thank you. Thanks, Stanley. So I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. I want everyone to know we're open till 8, so please feel free to hang around and chat. Look around the museum if you'd like. It's incredible. And there is a signed copy of the Datapreneurs for everyone to take home with you. So please make sure that you take a book. And if you have a friend or something that you'd like to bring one home for, feel free to do that too. So great. Thank you all for coming. Really appreciate it.